Hi, Claudia. Thank you very much for joining us today. Kodiak Copper is part of the Discovery Group of companies. And before we do the deep dive on Kodiak Copper, why don't we first start with a brief overview of Discovery Group and how they help companies that they are involved in?
The Discovery Group is a loose alliance of companies. We all work out of the same office. It's a really great group of people, and I'm very happy to be part of a strong, credible group with Kodiak. It's just a lot of synergies in terms of costs, but more importantly, a lot of support and contacts, technical expertise. And from an investor's perspective, it also just gives people some confidence that the companies in the group are good companies, well-run companies, because the Discovery Group has been around for many years, has been very successful, 2.6 billion of exits in the last couple of years. And not everybody gets invited to the group. So yeah, I really value being part of the Discovery Group with Kodiak. It makes us a stronger company.
And as you mentioned, they've had many successes, but one of their biggest ones was Great Bear. And why don't you just touch on that?
That obviously was a fantastic success of Chris Taylor, who was the founder of Great Bear and also of Kodiak. He's also Kodiak's chairman. And he really took Great Bear from the very beginning to $2 billion in shareholder values last year. One of the biggest discoveries in the last couple of years, if not decades. So important success for Chris. And Kodiak, in many ways, is a bit of a similar story in that, just like Great Bear, Chris took a project with our main project, MPD, that lots of people had looked at in the past and didn't really rate or couldn't make it work. And then Chris took a new and different approach. And yeah, I mean, Great Bear was a fantastic success. And with Kodiak, we also made a discovery right in our maiden drill program.
And I'm curious, is the Discovery Group of companies more focused on gold or copper?
It's a mix of different commodities, actually, that the 8 companies that are currently in the group covering. So there's gold, there's copper, there's also uranium, there's a royalty company. So it's really a mix of a variety of different metals and commodities.
So that's a good overview of the Discovery Group. Kodiak's flagship property is called MPD, which is located in Southern British Colombia, and it's surrounded by some of Canada's largest copper mines. Can you just provide us an overview of these copper producers that are in that surrounding area?
As you said, MPD is very much in an established mining district. That's an important advantage. It really lowers our exploration costs, and also in the future, it will be a big difference maker when it comes to building and operating a mine. There are a number of big copper mines in the vicinity, in addition to smaller mines, exploration projects. We are between 2 copper mines. We have Copper Mountain to our south, about 20 or so kilometers. That's a mine that's very geologically similar to what we see at MPD. And then to our north, about 40 or 50 kilometers, is another big copper mine by Teck, operated by Teck. That's Highland Valley. So yeah, it's really mining territory where we are.
And you touched on this earlier, but many people have looked at MPD before, but you and your team have taken a different approach. Maybe you can just provide a little more context to this approach and how it's different from previous explorers.
Yep. There are 2 important points that I would highlight why we were successful and previous explorers weren't. Firstly, we were able to acquire a consolidated land package, and most of or all of the historic exploration, which took place by a variety of different operators over a span of decades, all of this work was always on smaller land packages. And for a porphyry, which is all about size, the fact that we were able to acquire the consolidated package really was the first step to make this a success, because we were able to put in place a comprehensive exploration strategy. And then another sort of aspect of our work where we just took a different approach is that we drilled deeper than the historic drilling. The historic drilling on average, the average historic hole was 120 meters in length, so very shallow drilling. And Chris Taylor's interpretation was that this shallow drilling simply didn't reach the higher grade zones. So we drilled down to between 700 and 800 meters in our maiden drill program, and it worked right away. As I said, we made the discovery in the maiden drill program.
So I want to move on now and discuss the upcoming drilling season. But before we do that, why don't you provide us with some background on last year's drilling program so we have a foundation on what you're going to do this year?
We were focused until now primarily on the gate zone with our drilling, where we made our initial high-grade discovery, and have since the discovery drilled almost 50,000 meters. Last year we drilled 26,000 meters, and we're very successful in extending the high-grade mineralization at gate, which is now over about 1 kilometer in strike, down to a depth of 950 meters and about a width of 350 meters. So quite a sizable amount of mineralization that we see at gate. We're certainly very pleased with how we were able to delineate quite a significant amount of mineralization there. And last year, as I said, 26,000 meters. The majority of the drilling was at gate, and then also at some targets in the vicinity of gate. And now this year, we will also drill, have a similar size drill program planned, but very importantly, we'll take the approach that brought success at gate and now test multiple other targets on the property.
Claudia, last year, a lot of your focus was on the gate zone, and you drilled 26,000 meters. This year, you're going to drill 25,000 meters. Maybe you can tell us a little more about what targets you're going to focus on this year.
Yes, this year will be an exciting year because we essentially take the approach that brought us the discovery success at gate and test 4 or 5 other targets. Essentially, those targets are just like gate, historically drilled with shallow mineralization already drilled by previous operators, copper and gold, and we will test those targets deeper. And the aim essentially is to find more high-grade zones, one or several, and repeat what we did at gate. So it's a very exciting year. We have 4 priority targets of 5. We will drill in the southern part of our property at the south zone, the west zone, and 1516 is also on the priority list. And then in the northern part of our property at the man zone. And then we take it from there.
And does most of the drilling happen during the summer months, or can you drill all year round?
You can very much work all year round where we are. We're in Southern British Colombia, so the weather is not particularly cold and not very much snowfall. What we tend to do is do most of our drilling in the summer when you get best productivity, and then also drill at a bit of a slower pace in spring and autumn. And then when we have the worst weather in January, February, we generally pause the drilling and do all the other work.
I'm sure the summers must be beautiful in southern BC.
They certainly are.
And Claudia, in addition to drilling, will you do any other work? Will you do any geochem work or trenching?
Yes. Like in the previous years, we have, again, a sizable sampling program planned, and also a geophysical program. We will do 3D IP, which we have done in the past and which is very helpful for our drill targeting.
Claudia, let's move on now and discuss your balance sheet. You recently did a raise. Maybe you can just touch on that and what the proceeds will be used for and what your cash position is.
Yes, we just closed a financing of $8.5 million and have now $12 million in the treasury and are fully funded for the year for all of our work that we have planned, which is fantastic. So very good place to be.
And Claudia, one of your shareholders is Teck Resources. I'm curious how that relationship started and what brought them in.
Teck invested right after our initial discovery at the Gate Zone. That was in late 2020. And they invested at the time $8 million and took a 9.9% share. They have continued to invest in our financings since and have been a very supportive shareholder. It's really great to have them in the boat.
And besides capital, I'm sure they offer a lot of other services.
Well, there is no formal technical committee or anything like that, but we work together informally, and they've been to site a number of times, and that's obviously great to have their geologists on site and to get their insights and input. And Teck has also helped us in multiple other ways with our safety systems, with indigenous relations. They've given us a lot of advice and support.
And how do the grades at the Gate Zone compare to what might be found at Highland Valley or Copper Mountain?
That's a good question. When we came out with our discovery hole at the Gate Zone, that was a long hole of more than 500 meters of mineralization of 0.76% copper equivalent. And that was roughly 2 or 3 times the grade of the neighboring mines. That's why the initial discovering generated a lot of excitement. And generally what we see at Gate is higher grade mineralization that's significantly higher than what's mined next door. And we were able to delineate quite a significant amount of it. And that's very important. A porphyry system, a large porphyry system like what we see at MPD, always has a lot of lower grade mineralization and then some higher grade porphyry centers. And those are very important for future economics. And so, yeah, we were fortunate to hit a nice, sizable, high-grade porphyry center with Gate right at the start.
And because Teck is a shareholder, you work closely with them. You also spent 10 years working at Rio Tinto. So you have a good idea of what these large mining companies are looking for before they invest. Maybe you can just expand on this.
Well, certainly the reason Teck came in is that they see the potential for this project to be big and sizable. MPD has a very big footprint. That's why we were initially attracted to us, because that shows it has potential to be a big system. And that's also what attracted Teck. Teck is a big multinational company. They're not interested in small projects. They liked what they see in terms of size potential. And I think that's also why the market reacted very positively when they invested, because it was obviously a big vote of confidence.
So you bring up a very interesting point, and I'm just curious, is your intention to build or develop a resource, or will you continue to drill and build out the size and scale?
That's a good question and a strategic choice for Kodiak. We could, in theory, go and start working on a resource now. Many junior companies go and define resources relatively early, which then are by definition smaller. Or the alternative strategy is to keep drilling and really go for size. And that's what we're doing. That's how we believe we can generate most value for our shareholders. Gate is really only one target of several ones that have equally as much discovery potential. The only reason why we started drilling at Gate was one particular historic hole that piqued our interest. And we simply don't know yet whether Gate is the biggest, the highest grade porphyry center on the property. There might be others that are better. And that's what we're going to find out this year. And that's what our strategy is, to really go for size and scale and test these other targets with the aim to find more high-grade porphyry centers.
So you and Chris Taylor are basically going to take the same approach that he took at Great Bear Resources. They just focused on size and building it out before they went ahead and did a resource.
That's very, very well said. Yes, it's similar strategy.
Claudia, as we wrap up, what can investors expect in terms of news flow from Kodiak Copper in the coming months?
Look, news flow for us is obviously the drill results. The drill has started turning, and we expect the next batch of results reasonably soon. And then we'll have in the summer and all throughout the years batches of drill results from these new targets that we're testing.
Claudia, that was a great overview of Kodiak Copper, and I want to thank you for spending time with us today, and good luck on the upcoming drilling season.
Thank you.